Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the fantastic Breeders' Cup pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm good. I like the ring of that Breeders' Cup pleasure.
Yeah, it's Breeders' Cup time, Matt. This is the week. First ever edition at Del Mar, 13 World Championship races set to be run Friday. 4 on Friday, 9 on Saturday. Folks, we are going to handicap the races. At least we're going to give you our top 3 picks in each. Matt and I are also going to provide some of our favorite bets over the weekend. So fasten your seatbelt, get ready to go. Matt, we're going to go in order, which means the Juvenile Fillies Turf is first. Can they beat Happily?
Yeah, I think they can beat Happily. I think there's 2 standouts in this race, Brian. I certainly like Happily, but on top I have Rushing Fall for Chad Brown, who has been ultra impressive in her first 2 starts. Chad Brown kind of, in a short amount of time, owns this Juvenile Filly Turf race. He's won it 3 times. Of course, he won it with Lady Eli. He won it with New Money Honey last year. And his very, very first career Breeders' Cup win in his first start was in this race with Maram a few years ago.
Yeah, she was a nice filly, lightly raced filly. I remember her well, Matt, and that is the kind of good information you get right here on HorseCenter. I'm with you on Rushing Fall. Of course, she came out to my neck of the woods, and she looked really, really impressive. The Jessamine, I thought, was the best 2-year-old filly turf race of the year in America. So Rushing Fall is actually my top pick in here, Matt. Now, Happily has been taking names in Europe and just looking possibly like the best 2-year-old in all of Europe, male or female. So if Happily continues her form, she certainly will take some beating in here. Happily, an Aidan O'Brien filly who's won a bunch of stakes already in Europe, Group 1 stakes. I do see, though, a lot of wet turf courses that she's run at, so it's going to be different for her in a lot of ways. Obviously, she's going almost halfway across the world to get to California, and then she's going to find a much firmer turf course and a little bit tighter turns than she's used to. So I'm kind of hoping that the Americans can have their way in the Juvenile Fillies Turf, Matt. Another one I like, not surprisingly significant form, who, like Rushing Fall, is short on experience but has looked good to me.
Yep, that's another Chad Brown, if I'm not mistaken, Brian. Happily is Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. They could have a really big day, really big weekend in the Breeders' Cup this year.
Yeah, Aidan O'Brien often comes with a lot of good ones, and this year is no different. Matt, we both have wagers that start in the very first Breeders' Cup race, so I'm going to go over mine real quick, and then you can go over yours. I think we're both jumping into that pick 4 that includes all 4 Breeders' Cup races on Friday. So the Juvenile Fillies Turf starts it off, and it's kind of going to show who I like the rest of the day, but let's do it. Mine is a small one. It's just a 50-cent ticket starting off in the Juvenile Fillies Turf. I'm going to use my top 3 in the Juvenile Fillies Turf. That's Rushing Fall, Significant Form, Brown, and of course, Happily. Again, I'm hoping that Happily is the favorite and the beaten favorite, but I couldn't throw her off this ticket. Then my 2 horses with some odds that both want to rally, and I think we're on the same page in the Dirt Mile, so I'm using Awesome Slew and Practical Joke, just 2 in the Dirt Mile, hoping for some odds there. And then the Juvenile Turf, I'm going to go with my top 3. Again, I'm going to really try to beat the Euros in here, although there are a bunch of interesting Euros. But I think the Americans have a real shot in the Juvenile Turf. Snapper Sinclair, I expect to have some odds. Catholic Boy, another Chad Brown, I believe. And Untamed Domain, the rallying son of Animal Kingdom. So I'll use 3 in the Juvenile Turf. And then in the Distaff, I'm going to go older. My top 2, Stellar Wind is number 1. Forever Bridled is number 2. So that completes my 50-cent pick 4. All 4 races on Friday for $18 total. What's yours, Matt?
Mine is certainly similar, Brian. I'm going to use Rushing Fall and Happily to start out this pick six. Then I'm going to use those same two horses and we're going to talk about the Dirt Mile more in a minute, so folks, we'll get to that, with Awesome Slew and Practical Joke. And interestingly, and when we get down to the Juvenile Turf, folks, you're going to see that Brian and I have 6 different horses picked, and because of that, I think that's a wide open race. I'm going to hit the all button there, Brian, and hope for a big payout there, and then I'm going to put 3 horses in the Distaff. I'm going to use Elate, Forever Unbridled, and Stellar Win. So my ticket's a little bit bigger there because I'm hitting the all button.
Okay, Matt. Yeah, it makes sense that Juvenile Turf is a wide open race. Unless I get significant form to win, it looks like you will win if I win, but you have many more options in the Juvenile Turf, and then one more in the Distaff. Okay, so there's our first few tickets. Next race is the Dirt Mile, Matt, and this is one of the more interesting races of the day. I opined the other day that I hope Del Mar is playing fair and it's not too speed crazy. I have a feeling it will play more fair, having to do with the safety of that Seaside Oval, where they don't want to make this track too hard or too speed friendly. So I'm hoping ralliers can have a real shot in these 2 days at the Breeders' Cup. And this is a race with Sharp Azteca and several horses that want to be on or near the lead, where I think the pace will be fast. Awesome Slew and Practical Joke are really 2 good rallying options at a mile. I like them both. And in fact, I'm going with the longer one as my top pick. Awesome Slew coming off a really nice win at Churchill Downs, where he beat the Player. And of course, the Player came back and won nicely at Keeneland this weekend.
Yes, and I agree with that sentiment. In the Dirt Mile, I'm looking for closers. My top pick is Practical Joke. I love Practical Joke in here. Practical Joke is going to be the key to a lot of wagers for me on that first day. And if Practical Joke wins the Dirt Mile, and according to the morning line right now, Practical Joke is 4th choice. I wouldn't mind that at all. I'm going to have a good day.
Yeah. If for me, it's the ralliers, and to tell you the truth, Matt, I wouldn't mind seeing them run 1-2. Sure, there's lots of dangerous horses in here. More Spirit, of course, coming off the long layoff. If he runs back to his Met Mile, he's certainly the horse to beat. But he's been away for a long time. Cupid, I still, his last 2 races aren't quite as good, but I know there's a lot of talent there, and I fear Cupid a little bit. I put Accelerate as my 3rd pick in here, and one of the reasons is Accelerate really likes Del Mar, but he'll be another one who's pretty close to that early pace. So let's go with the closers and see what happens, Matt. This is another one of my wagers, favorite wagers of the Breeders' Cup. I'm doing a straight exacta box. It's a $20 ticket, $10 exacta box with the 2 closers, and hope they not only get the win, but they run 1-2. Awesome Slew, Practical Joke, box them, $10 exacta box. Matt, the Juvenile Turf, we've talked about a little bit, is the 3rd race on Friday. Snapper Sinclair I saw at Kentucky Downs, and I came away very impressed. I don't think he's going to get a lot of action coming from Kentucky Downs, but I think there's a real chance he could be, Steve Asmussen trained, he could be the best 2-year-old turf horse in America right now.
Yeah, and like I was saying during the wagers, Brian, pretty amazingly, you've got 3 horses, I've got 3 horses. We've got 6 different horses in this race, indicating that this has got to be a very wide open race. My top choice, I'm going with Encumbered, who has a home turf advantage, 2 for 2 at Del Mar. Couple other races off the turf, and makes it even clearer how much this horse likes running on the grass. So I've got Encumbered on top. And my second choice is Massar, who has been running in Europe and been running competitively with Happily, who we mentioned earlier. I'm also going to throw in Mendelssohn, which is Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore.
Yeah, the Europeans, Matt, there's a handful in here that I could see running. On the other hand, none of them looked to me quite as good as Happily. Like we said with Happily, it's a whole different game here coming over to Del Mar, running the 2 turns, firmer turf. So who knows? One of them could be just better and win the race. I agree with you. It's a very wide open race. I do like Snapper Sinclair, especially with the odds. Catholic Boy, another one of those Chad Brown horses that looks very good coming from New York. And Untamed Domain, I think he's getting better. As I mentioned, a son of Animal Kingdom, who really finished with a flourish up at Woodbine. So I've got horses coming from different places. Snapper Sinclair, by the way, won at Saratoga before he won at Kentucky Downs, which I think for me underlines his class just a little bit. But wide open race, and both part of our early pick 4 in the Breeders' Cup. But the big one, Matt, on Friday, of course, is the Distaff. The Distaff, we've seen some great winners in years past. We saw a wonderful, wonderful race last year when Beholder beat Songbird Matt by, I don't know, half an eyelash in last year's Distaff. It was a great race. Behind them, not too far behind them, were the 2 older mares, and I think they're the ones to beat. Forever Unbridled's only run twice this year. I'm not sure why she's only run twice, but certainly been impressive. But for my money, Stellar Wind finally gets the money after tough luck the last 2 years. I think she's the best. She likes Del Mar. John Sadler gets off the schneid, finally winning a Breeders' Cup race. For me, Stellar Wind is the one to beat.
I'm going to disagree, Brian. I don't think it's going to happen for Stellar Wind this year. As I've mentioned before, I don't like the long layoff for the horse, even though John Sadler said he felt last year that maybe she was a little bit tired with a closer prep coming into the race. This is not an easy spot by any means. I have a late on top. I think of all the horses, her recent form and her development is better than any of the other horses in the race. Bill Mott's training, he is Mr. Distaff. I'm going with a late on top and then Forever Unbridled to make her big run down the stretch. And then I have Stellar Wind third. I think the wild card in the race is Paradise Woods, Brian. We know she's going out. We know she's going to set a big pace. I think she'd be dangerous for everybody to leave her alone and hope she's going to back up. So I think she could have a significant impact on this race.
Oh, absolutely, Matt. Paradise Woods is a big talent, a big, strong, good-looking filly who has failed a few times recently, but her last one, she showed again what she could do, much like the Santa Anita Oaks when she gets the lead to herself. I don't think she's going to have it to herself, or at least not for too long in here, so I think she will eventually succumb. And for me, it really boils down to the older horses. Elate, I agree with you. I know Elate is a real big talent, obviously a talented filly, obviously improving at the right time. And Elate, if she comes back next year, I think is going to probably be the filly and mare to beat going forward. However, beating these really, really good older horses, I just don't love Elate. Paradise Woods was almost my third pick, but I went with Elate. I think the older fillies have the advantage, just in experience and maturity. And Stellar Wind, other than probably Gunrunner and Arrogate, I think she might be the best dirt horse in the country. So I think she will get the job done here at one of her favorite tracks of Del Mar. All right, Matt, that's Friday. Let's move to Saturday. I'm going to make a bet in the Juvenile Fillies, but first I want to hear your thought on a race that really talks about the future of the filly division next year, the Kentucky Oaks. I've kind of put this division down a little bit over the last month or two, saying no one has impressed me too much. What are your thoughts on the Juvenile Fillies?
I think that's a fair assessment, Brian. And Moonshine Memories is the morning line favorite, not a heavy morning line favorite by any means. And I think that's an indication that a lot of people feel that this is a wide open race. No disrespect intended. I would not be surprised by any means if Moonshine Memories is the winner of the race. But I feel like this is a race where I'm going to take a little shot to beat the morning line favorite, and I'm going to go with the long shot that we that I talked about in the last show. I'm going to go with Caledonia Road coming out of the Frizette. I think this is a horse that could be getting better. That's my top pick. My second pick is Heavenly Love, who I think you also like, Brian, who just ran a tremendous race in the Alcibiades at Keeneland and trained by the Cassie team. I like Heavenly Love in there a lot, and I've got Moonshine Memories in the third position.
Yeah, I also have the favorite in third in here, Matt. Certainly she could win, and respect for Moonshine Memories, what she's done so far this year. But I've never been overly impressed with what she's done. I've been more impressed with Heavenly Love's last two races, one sprinting on the turf at Kentucky Downs, one going 2 turns at Keeneland in the Alcibiades. Heavenly Love, I think, is the filly with the most upside in here. I like her racing style. I love the way she finished off both of those races. For those reasons, she is my pretty clear top pick in here. I like Heavenly Love. I'm going with another one, though, another long shot, a different long shot. I wasn't as impressed with the Frizette as maybe the Champagne or maybe comparably to the other horses in this race. So I'm going to steer clear of the New York horses. PD Bianchi, I went back and watched that Del Mar debutante again. She was really finishing up full of run when Moonshine Memories had things more her own way. And I think this time we're going to get more pace than we saw in the Chandelier. So I think it's going to be a little tougher for Baffert's filly Alluring Star, Moonshine Memories, Separation of Powers, the Frizette winner. So I think PD Bianchi might be the long shot to be running late. So I'm just going to throw in a little exacta box in here with my top 2 picks, and it should pay quite nicely if I'm lucky enough to hit it. And that would be Heavenly Love, my number 1, and PD Bianchi, my long shot pick in the Juvenile Fillies. Matt, number 2 on Saturday is the always interesting turf sprint. This year at Del Mar, it's only 5 furlongs. Does that give the advantage to the 3-year-old filly?
Well, we know that Lady Aurelia loves the 5 furlong distance. I have Lady Aurelia on top here, and I have the other European, Marcia, who beat Lady Aurelia in their last start over in Europe. And so I've got 2 Euros on top in the turf sprint, and I have Disco Partner in there. Although, I am usually not a guy that talks about post position much at all, but it certainly didn't help Disco Partner to draw the rail in there.
Yeah, that's a concern for sure. And Matt, let's call Lady Aurelia an American, even though she's made more starts in Europe than she has America. Stone Street and all of her connections want you to recognize her as an American filly. Lady Aurelia is the one to beat. I went back and forth with her and Disco Partner. I think the post is not the most helpful in the world for Disco Partner, as well as the shortening up to 5 furlongs. But I just have a feeling there's going to be some pressure. Lady Aurelia might get caught again like she did her last time in Europe. She's a deserving favorite. Obviously, I could see her winning, and I could see her winning impressively. But I just have a feeling Disco Partner's going to run his race, be close enough when they straighten out where he can run down the filly late. Probably the second choice. Marcia, certainly I have a lot of respect for what Marcia's done over her career in Europe. But 5 furlongs at Del Mar, I'm not sure she's quite as sharp as some of the others. So I'm going to go Disco Partner, just a hair, just a slight upset over Lady Aurelia. Buchero from the Tim Gleishaw barn. Like I said last week, he's really gotten good of late, sprinting, loves 5 furlongs, coming off a very nice win at Keeneland. So I'm going to throw him in as my third pick.
So in the turf sprint, I'm going to use Lady Aurelia, Marcia, and Disco Partner. In the filly and mare sprint, I'm going to use Sky Diamonds, Highway Star, and Unique Bella. I can't not use Unique Bella in there. Then we go to the filly and mare turf race, where of course I like Lady Eli, but I'm gonna throw in a few other horses just in case, looking for a price here. So I'm going to use Lady Eli, Rhododendron, Cambodia, and Queen's Trust. And then I'm going to single Mind Your Biscuits. 50-cent pick 4, not a big ticket at all, only $18. May not pay a lot, but we get a couple upsets in there. And mind your biscuits is going to be a good price. Those pick fours pay a lot in the Breeders' Cup with the big fields.
Filly and Mare Sprint is next on the docket, sir. And it's an interesting race with a very popular favorite.
It is an interesting race with Unique Bella in there, who will certainly be one of the biggest favorites of the 2-day weekend, and probably deservedly so. But with only one race back after after her 6 months or so off for her injuries, that makes this not an easy spot. I think both of us, once again, are looking for horses to come off the pace in this 7-furlong sprint for the fillies and mares. I'm going to stick with Sky Diamonds, who we talked about last week, and also another closer. I'll throw in Highway Star in there. But, Unique Bella is not a horse that, she's not going to be running out on the lead. She's also probably going to be coming off the pace. So you have to include her.
Absolutely, Matt. Unique Bella, we cannot take the big gray filly lightly in here. On the other hand, what I did see in that last race, while she won it nicely, there was a bit of over-eagerness early. I think that would hurt her if she shows any of that against this field. This is the best older sprinting females in the country. There's a number of good ones. The 7-furlong distance, I don't think hurts Unique Bella, but on the other hand, if she's a bit rank with the fast pace in here, with all these good fillies coming from behind, I think she does get beat. I want to beat the heavy favorite, so that's my reason. Having said that, I still stick her number 2, just my respect for how much talent the well-bred Jerry Hollendorfer filly has. I certainly could see her winning this race. But as the favorite, I'm going to try to beat her. You mentioned my top pick, Highway Star. I think Highway Star is a real 7-furlong horse who's gotten as better than she's ever been. I think she can lay close enough where she's not too far back at Del Mar. But 7 furlongs could do the trick where if she can get, within 3 lengths as they turn for home, Highway Star could take all the money. Finley's Lucky Charm is a filly that I've always had a lot of admiration for as well. She's one who might be better at 6 than 7, although I'm not positive of that. Try at Del Mar, first try out there, and the tactical speed to be close to the pace. I think Finley's Lucky Charm has the talent to stick around. I don't have Sky Diamonds in my top 3. I don't have Paula Silver Lining. There's a lot of potential winners in here, assuming Unique Bella is beatable. But I think Highway Star has some odds, and 7 furlongs is an interesting distance. And she's my 7-furlong filly, so I'm sticking with her. Not the next race is the race where I think there's a lot of rooting interest, but it's on the favorite. In the Filly and Mare Turf, we all want to see last year's runner-up get the money this year.
Yeah, folks, the Filly and Mare Turf is going to be the most emotionally charged race of the Breeders' Cup, with Lady Eli looking to close her career out with a big win and lock up her first Eclipse Award. Everything's aligning perfectly for Lady Eli in here, because I think if Chad Brown could pick a distance, an ideal distance for Lady Eli to run, he would choose the 1 1/8. That is the distance that they are running at Del Mar. I got Lady Eli on top. I think she's going to be a winner. It's not going to be easy. There are some very good horses in the race, like Rhododendron, another Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore horse that is my second choice. And my third choice is Cambodia from the barn of Tom Proctor. He's very good training horses on the turf. And this one's been running in Del Mar. Got 2 big, excellent races on the Del Mar turf.
Yeah, well, I'm with you, Matt. You're talking about a lot of the things that I think too. Lady Eli at 9 furlongs. We should also mention her form in California. Obviously, she likes the firm turf out there. And I think 9 furlongs is her ideal distance. I think she's a better filly and mare now this year, 2 years removed from laminitis at the age of 5 than she was last year, when she just barely got beat in a longer Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. So yeah, she's clearly number one for me. There are a lot of good fillies in here. It's an interesting race, but on the other hand, I don't know if there's really one filly that stood out to me as the horse most likely to beat Lady Eli. Rhododendron, I worry about the firm turf, if she's quite as good on real firm turf. And 9 Furlongs Rhododendron, certainly, she's got the class to be the second choice in here, but I think she's beatable. For that reason, I went with some others in the 2 and 3 spot, and I really looked to last year's result. After I came to my top 3, I realized how close it was to last year. Queen's Trust, I think she legs firm turf, as we saw last year. We saw it also this year with a very nice performance at Ascot. She's been running against very good horses, and she's been getting turf courses or paces probably that won't set up as well as it will on Saturday at Del Mar. So I think Queen's Trust, last year's winner, runs another good race, and I think once again she'll have some real odds in here. So Queen's Trust is my second pick. And Avenge, I think Avenge has always been taken a little bit for granted. She ran really well last year, and she's only run a few times this year, but she's getting better with each start. I expect Avenge, kind of stalking the pace, to run another very good race in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf first. So she's my third pick in a race with a lot of horses hoping to run their best, but Lady Eli is the one to beat. Matt, I think the Sprint is one of our favorite betting races, despite the fact that the favorite and the defending champion has been getting rave reviews from the clockers and the people watching out there. Drefong is the one to beat in the Sprint with only 2 races this year.
Yep, certainly, Brian. And, we're going to sound a little bit like a broken record here. I think you and I both are looking for the ralliers in here. I don't think Drefong is going to get away and get loose as easily as he did last year. And, with a light campaign and pressure out front, you and I think, are both looking for a rallier in here. And I think we're both looking at Mind Your Biscuits in here. A good price and a horse that I'm going to be keying in daily doubles on either side and in a pick 4.
Absolutely, Matt. I'm with you 100%. I've been on the Mind Your Biscuit bandwagon for a while now. I'm throwing that last race out. I'm drawing a line through it. He wasn't the happiest of horses for the Forego. Drefong had everything his own way in the Forego, his only win this year, and I think that will be far different than what he finds here. Drefong certainly could be the best horse in the race and very likely is the best sprinter in the race. However, Tackleful is pure speed. Imperial Hint is a really, really good 5-6 furlong horse right now. Roy H., how good has Roy H. been this year? All of those horses want the lead or near the lead in here. Drefong will have it anything but easy. Heavy favorite. I'm going against Drefong. Respect, but this race just does not set up for him like his other wins have. So I love to see that as a better. Mind Your Biscuits, I'm hoping he's 8-1 or more in here, and I think he makes a big run to pick up the pieces. They're going to run fast, and Mind Your Biscuits is going to come running. I really like him to win. I even have Roy H., who probably will be behind Drefong early, as my top pick for second. That is my second place pick over Drefong in third. Like I mentioned, though, Tackleful, Imperial Hint, there are some talented sprinters in here. Whitmore could rally, but I don't trust him as much. Mind Your Biscuits all the way, Matt. In fact, this is one of my recommended bets of the Breeders' Cup. I'm just going to put $20 straight to win right on the nose of Mind Your Biscuits. And if he pays $20, I'll get a couple hundred back for that bet with a horse that's going to be rolling down the lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Mind Your Biscuits is a horse to be using in the win spot, either with a straight win bet or in wagers where we need him to win, whether they're pick 3s, pick 4s, or daily doubles on either side.
Good stuff. If folks, if Mind Your Biscuits wins the Breeders' Cup Sprint this year, Chad Summers will be extremely happy, but your respective hosts here at HorseCenter will also be pretty happy. Matt, let's jump to the Breeders' Cup Mile, a mile on turf. Mark Casse has had some good success in here with recent years, Tepin winning and then just missing last year. I think he's got the horse to beat again this year with a similar type of horse to Tepin, frankly.
Yeah, I think he's got the horse to beat in here. Also, I think the American's got a great shot of winning this big race. I think that the Del Mar configuration that has the tight turns is not going to be as kind to the Euros. So I have world approval on top, but I'm also going to throw in the second spot the Euro Roly Poly, who is very talented. Again, broken record here. It's Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. And in the third spot, I like Ballet Rocks, which is trained by Bill Mott.
Yeah, I think the Europeans have a lot of class, maybe as much as any race short of the Breeders' Cup Turf. The Euros come over with class. And, Ribchester is the best European of the bunch. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But as one of the two favorites, what you said about the configurations in Del Mar, I'm willing to take a shot to beat Ribchester. Many horses like him in the past have not run their best race coming over here for a race like this. So I'm gonna take a stand against Ribchester. The other favorite, as we mentioned, World Approval, a horse with great tactical speed, great kick, loves a mile, loves any kind of turf course. I expect World Approval to be one of the horses as they hit the eighth pole, if not the one. So he's my top pick like you. I'm pretty similar to you, but I went with 2 Euros with some odds in the second and third spots just on class. After World Approval, I don't trust any of the Americans' class quite as much. Zelzal is a talented French horse who I liked him last year. Again, I like him again this year. He's had some issues this year, but I think firm turf at a mile is perfect for him. I think Zelzal could run a big race. And the filly that you mentioned, Roly Poly, really is, she was a nice 2-year-old, but she's better this year. She definitely likes a mile as well. So for me, it's World Approval over Zelzal and Roly Poly, the filly. All right, Matt, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. Let's talk Kentucky Derby months and months ahead. Let's talk Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Bolt D'Oro is going to be a clear favorite.
Yeah, and I haven't picked that many favorites so far, and I think some of the favorites are going to win, and I think Bolt D'Oro is one of the likely favorites in here. Very talented horse, physically impressive horse, and California-based horse. So I think he's got a lot of pluses for this favorite to be a winner. In the second and third spots, I'm going to go with the horses, the top 2 from the Champagne in New York. That's Good Magic, who is still a maiden, which probably means a good price, but ran a big race in the Champagne to finish second to Firenze Fire.
Yeah, Good Magic is very interesting to me as well, Matt. I'm gonna pat myself on the back here just a little bit. I've been following the career of Free Drop Billy very, very closely. I really didn't want to believe, I didn't let myself believe that he could be the best 2-year-old in the country, but I'm starting to believe that he has a shot to do it. Really good reports out of his workouts of late. Obviously, the Breeders' Futurity win was good. Free Drop Billy, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in the future on my column, but Free Drop Billy, out of thousands and thousands and thousands of yearlings last year, he was the one horse that I picked out as my single horse, my single yearling, my single favorite yearling. Free Drop Billy was the one horse that I picked a year ahead of time to be the 2-year-old champion. Here we are. He's got a chance to do it. I'm going to stick with him now. I'm going to go with him. I'm going to run with Free Drop Billy, see if he can get it done and make me actually look smart for once. So Free Drop Billy will be my top pick to upset the deserving heavy favorite, Bolt D'Oro. Yeah, Bolt D'Oro is a strong number 2 pick for me. It goes without saying. He's got everything going for him. Just really good form. He's been the distance. He likes Del Mar, obviously, and he looks one race away from being a 2-year-old champion. So big respect for Bolt D'Oro. If there's any horse that could beat him, I do believe now it is Free Drop Billy. My third horse on the list is a horse I didn't really want to like that much, but I just look at his races and I say tactically he's got the speed. The Tabulator looks like the type of 2-year-old that runs well in these type of races. And I think despite coming from smaller tracks early on, I think the Tabulator probably to some extent is for real. So I think he's going to hang around for third. But Free Drop Billy, my 2-year-old champion pick from last year. I don't know how many yearling colts there were, Matt, 10, 12,000. That would be pretty cool if I could pick out one yearling to be the 2-year-old champion.
That would be pretty impressive. Too bad you didn't have the money to buy him in the yearling sale.
Couple 100,000 was all it took. But no, they went to Albaugh and Romans, as so many good yearlings and 2-year-olds have in recent years. All right, Matt, Breeders' Cup Turf. I wanted to like the Americans more in here, but I just could not get away from the Euros.
Yeah, I agreed with that. I looked at it, and that's the way it's been all year with the older male turf division in the U.S. There just really has not been a standout. We've had different winners who have looked good, winning various races around the country. But yeah, I agree, Brian. I don't think they measure up to the Euros. And with the 1.5 mile distance, that can certainly help the Euros overcome some of the things they may not like about the configuration of the turf course at Del Mar. So I'm going with last year's winner. I'm going with Highland Reel. Coming back quickly off his last race, but before that, he had a bit of a layoff. So that last race I'm looking at as a tightener, getting ready for this race. We know Highland Reel loves running in the U.S. Some of his best races have been here.
Yeah, Matt, Highland Reel, what can you say about Highland Reel? He's come to America several times before. He's looked great doing it all the time. Plenty of speed. Maybe there's a little bit more speed this year. I don't think he's going to open up that huge gap that he did last year. I'm going to go with the other top European above him. Ulysses has just impressed me. He's getting better and better. Now 4-year-old. He ran a very good race last year, but I think he's even better this year. And I think this year they stick with Highland Reel a little bit more. So for that reason, I'm picking €1 over another. Ulysses over Highland Reel. The Americans probably don't quite stack up with the class of those two. And these are two horses that have proven they can travel well, and especially proven they could travel well to America. I like the 3-year-old a little bit. Oscar Performance, maybe getting the best of the American finishes. Beach Patrol certainly deserves to be the American favorite, but I think one of the Euros is going to win this race. Matt, let's backtrack a little bit too, because one of our big bets of this Breeders' Cup weekend was the late pick 4 that includes the mile, the juvenile, the turf, the classic. I wanted to talk a little bit about these races before we got into the bet, but let's now reveal right before the classic our tickets for the pick 4, beginning with the mile. You already know what we've talked about in those first 3 races, so I'm going to give you my ticket. This one is a $1 pick 4 for a total of $54. I'm going to use the 3 horses I mentioned in the mile as my top 3, World Approval, 2 long shot Euros, Zelzal and Roly Poly, or at least medium shot Euros. I'm going to try to beat Bolt Doro with this pick 4 with Free Drop Billy, but I'm not dumb enough not to include Bolt Doro as well. So Free Drop Billy and Bolt Doro are both on this ticket. Then in the turf, my top 3, Ulysses, Highland Reel. I think one of those 2 will win, but I'm going to throw in Oscar Performance and hope that the Americans can pull an upset in here with that one. And then in the classic, which we're going to talk about next, for me, it's Gun Runner as the horse to beat, Arrogate as the horse he has to beat, and my long shot pick is Pavel. And finally, Matt, the big one, the Breeders' Cup Classic, the race we're waiting for more than any other this year. It probably will decide horse of the year. It will give Gun Runner one last chance to beat Arrogate. 7 months ago or more, there was no doubt who the best horse in America was. It was Arrogate. We saw him run right by Gunrunner to win the Dubai World Cup. Things have changed a little bit. Has that changed who you like in the Breeders' Cup Classic on Saturday?
I'm gonna stick with Gunrunner, even though there's been so much talk this past week about how good Arrogate looks, and I feel like the Arrogate hype machine is getting back to a feverish pitch. But Gunrunner has just been doing everything right since the Dubai World Cup. Everything that Steve Asmussen and the Winchells have planned out for Gunrunner has gone as if, every detail has been perfectly scripted. Nothing has gone wrong with Gunrunner. I think he's just going to continue with that. The extra distance isn't going to be a factor. I'm going with Gunrunner to win it. My second choice in the race is West Coast, because there's part of me that believes that Bafford's best horse in this race is West Coast, and I'm going to put Arrogate in third, and that might be a nice exacta.
Yeah, that should be decent. You might have the favorite on top of the third choice, but it won't be a low exacta by any means. Matt, I'm with you. Gunrunner, listen, Gunrunner's been getting better all his career. He's always been near the top. I just think now he's moved to the top. These are athletes, and you see athletes in every sport just improve and come up to things perfectly. And as Matt so eloquently stated, Gunrunner's done that. He's just getting better and better. Everything's gone right for him. I don't think the 1.25 mile matters at all for him at this point in his career. He's a really, really good, mature 4-year-old. He wouldn't have been touched, obviously, in any of those recent races if they were 1.25 miles or more. I'm convinced of that. There is the thought that maybe Baffert gangs up on Gunrunner a little bit early, collected at him, or maybe even West Coast at him early. We'll see. But I think Gunrunner's gotten to the point now where he's moving in the right direction ever since the second in the Dubai World Cup, and he is America's best horse. I think Gunrunner wins this Breeders' Cup Classic. I still respect Arrogate the most of the Baffert horses, and I think Baffert would say the same thing, especially at 1.25 miles. So Arrogate is my number 2 and the most dangerous horse to Gunrunner's supremacy here as on his march to the Horse of the Year title. So Gunrunner 1, Arrogate 2, the big 2, 1-2. I do fear West Coast, probably most of the Baffert, the other 3 Baffert horses. So I respect your pick of him second. He is a danger in here. I think Gunavera could rally in, but I just think Pavel is the horse that's moving forward the quickest. I like the fact that he trained over Del Mar this summer very well. That's why they decided to make this crazy trek that he did to the East Coast with the Jim Dandy, the Smarty Jones, and the Jockey Club Gold Cup in his second, third, and fourth career races. Pavel is a serious talent. This might be a little bit too much too soon, but I think we're going to see a very good performance out of Pavel. So he's my third pick and my top long shot in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Folks, there you have it. There are some of our favorite bets, our top 3 in each pick. Matt, what do you think? This Breeders' Cup promises to be another interesting one.
It certainly does, and I'm looking forward to going to Del Mar for the first time this year. So if any of you HorseCenter fans are there and you know the ins and outs of Del Mar and you see me around, please say hello and show me your favorite spots at the San Diego racetrack.
You're going to enjoy Del Mar, Matt. It's truly one of my favorite tracks in the country. As always, we want to thank our wonderful producer, Brett Workman. We want to thank you for watching every week. We know these Breeders' Cup shows are being viewed intently and also in great numbers. We sure appreciate that. We will be back on Tuesday to talk about everything that happened, everything that transpired. Hopefully, Matt and I will be winning, and hopefully you folks will have a great Breeders' Cup, both monetarily and enjoyment-wise. We will see you next Tuesday for a Breeders' Cup recap show. Until then, enjoy all the great action at Del Mar.